today. My name's Gemma Goodham, Head of Digital Learning, Education and Innovation for the City of Portsmouth. We've been doing a lot of work with Portsmouth SCITT, and so today I'm joined by 3 members of our school community who've been working very closely with SCITT.
So I'm Sophie Kelleher. I'm a Year 5 class teacher, computing lead at our school and digital champion as well.
Jack Jones, Head of School, New Horizons Primary School.
And I'm Danielle Trott, and I am a SCITT student that's just finished from the cohort of 2023 to 2024.
Jack, as a head teacher, why do you think it's important to have a digital lead in your school?
I think now that we're looking at pupils of the future, digital citizenship, we know that many job roles aren't even existed yet that will do in 10 years' time. Actually being at the forefront of that's really important, and actually having someone to lead that's not necessarily one of the senior leadership teams really important as well, so that we're upskilling the staff ready for their next part of their journey too. Thank
you. And I know Sophie's obviously had a real key role in your own digital strategy. So what impact has she had on the school since becoming a digital champion? So I think first of all, Sophie's knowledge and expertise really around the subjects really increased over time, which has then led to much more in-depth discussions around how we're going to set up our strategic vision for the school, looking at our infrastructure, also our devices and how we're going to use those, but also having Sophie's input with all of the knowledge and understanding of what she's gaining from that wider network to make those decisions really effective has probably been the biggest impact that we've seen at school level. But also now being able to sit down and write a 3-year strategy with Sophie around what that looks like and tie that into not just as a school, but looking at feeding that back up into a MAT level as well as part of Multi-Academy Trust has been really beneficial. Thank you. So Sophie, I know obviously by you becoming a digital champion for your school, you've also taken part in the Primary Goal Digital Champion apprenticeship. So how has this supported your role?
So it's supported my role in many different ways. So I'm able to advocate for staff in our school. I think being still in the classroom, you see things from a different perspective to maybe other people who are outside of the classroom. So having someone from the classroom that's able to speak up at different meetings is really beneficial. It's also helped me to support staff to use different pieces of technology and new and improving technology as it comes out. The change management sections of the apprenticeship has been beneficial for me as well, because it helps me to prioritise sort of what steps need to be taken and how to do that in a way that you're not sort of going to scare all the staff off. It's also sort of any problems now, rather than having to go through a help desk system, staff feel like they can come to me and those like little small minor issues are being solved quicker, so it's having less of an impact on teaching and learning in the classroom. Like whiteboards and things like that can be fixed sort of within minutes rather than having to wait for someone to come and do that for us. And as well, the sort of use of policies as well in our school. So when we're asking for things now, and they're requesting like DPIA forms and things, I have an understanding of what those are, so no longer a barrier. I can get on and sort those out, so that again speeds up getting new technology into school. Wow, not much then.
So part of your role as digital champion this year is that I've then involved you with our SCITT IT and digital part of the training. So why did you offer to support the SCITT training?
So I did SCITT myself 4 years ago, and I remember from when I was at SCITT, when the people came in to teach us about how to use the different technologies, like things like an interactive whiteboard. Obviously in your day-to-day life that's not something that you learn how to do, so it's really important that someone comes in and shows you those things as well. And I just think if we can get into SCITT and show new teachers that are coming through how to use all of the equipment, it means that they're prepared, ready for when they come into our schools. And the offer that's being given out across Portsmouth is the same no matter which school that the children are at.
Thank you. So Danielle, actually I feel quite proud as your governor being here as well and sharing this with you and seeing your journey this year. But what have you learned from your sessions and then from shadowing Sophie and how you're going to use this in your own classroom practice?
So throughout the year, we've engaged in sessions where we've looked at microbits, we've looked at sessions on AI and how that can support your workload as a teacher, especially being newly qualified. We've looked at how we can use resources such as ClassPoint and Plickers, and we've had a lot of input with how to use clickers. And from this, it's just completely changed the way that I can speak on behalf of myself and probably a majority of our students as well, of how we can deliver sessions to children. For example, there has been a session that I've taken into my placement, which was at New Horizons. We planned a block of science lessons, and from that we were able to actually get data from Plickers that all children were able to access, where they only needed to access A, B, C and D. So I had EAL children that maybe working below actually came out some of our greater depth science children. So
yeah, and I think that's really impactful, and it aligns with what both Jack and Sophie said, and the fact that technology really can be fundamental in making a difference for our children with SEND and from an accessibility perspective. And I think as well, I know we've had conversations, you've actually been inspired to become a digital champion yourself. So what made you do this?
So I've looked into this for the forthcoming year because myself, I've always had an interest in IT, and it's something that as a student years ago, as technology is advancing, I made sure that I carried on with that in my own training. But this year, it's really opened my eyes up to actually how it can support people, and how through Sophie and some of the other digital champions have really supported me. And it's the whole networking, the whole program has been where we had discussions with Sophie that how it's supported others. But I would like to be able to put my knowledge then and to help the future trainees and the people that I work with in my year group as well. Just from the tiny snippets that we've had, that's enabled me to actually go into 2 different schools in 2 different year groups, key stages, and actually implement just what I've learned in those tiny couple of hours training I've had. So for me, imagine what I could do if I had the full training. So.
And you know what, I would love to be able to sit here in a couple of years' time, and then you'll be the one saying, actually, now I've trained these trainees. Jack, having been in the city a long time, so you've obviously seen a lot of changes.
Yep.
But how has the digital champion part of the Digital City project changed the way that we're using technology?
I think there's multiple ways for that. Well, I think the first thing just to talk about is that it's really revolutionised stuff that we were doing but weren't doing effectively. So actually it's just upskilling what we're doing. So it's as simple as making sure we're using the right software, the right time, the right tool, all of that to make sure that the children are getting the best from the activity at hand, not shoehorning something in because we want it to look jazzy. It's about having a real purpose. And I think that's really helped focus and bring together digital champions across the city. And I think one of the biggest benefits that we've seen is that increasing collaboration and sharing of resources through the digital champions, who are then able to go into multiple schools and then bring that back. So whilst letting Sophie go out and do those things in schools is really beneficial for that school, she's always coming back with other ideas that are then helping us to think about, maybe we need to do that too. And I think just to sort of touch on the impact from a SCITT perspective, from a head's perspective, it's future-proofing our teaching staff for the future in Portsmouth, and it's really making sure that those new teachers coming into schools as ECTs are at the forefront of what's really going on, and having that ability to upskill existing members of staff. Put my hands up and say there's things that I've learned through Sophie and Danielle and other SCITT students bringing things back and sharing with our staff that we weren't aware of as well. So I think it's that bringing that IT and digital pedagogy back into schools, because we know that's going to be a massive thing moving forward. And as for over a period of time, how much has it changed? Hugely is the answer. That bringing up that digital champions role, but also how that infrastructure is changing across the city, because we know without that good infrastructure, we're not going to be able to deliver what we know we need. And I think the support that we've been able to gain from yourself and that wider team of service network managers coming together allows us to be much more flexible with how we're using IT, building flexi devices, flex Chromebooking, all of those things which we never would have been able to do. And those devices would have probably gone into the bin eventually or been retired. And from a sustainability perspective and a financial way, that's huge. And I think you touched on the SCND perspective as well, and that accessibility. Actually, finances are really tight in schools, we know that. And I think being able to use more tools in a digital way to support children to become independent learners, but still access what they need, that's been a massive shift over the last few years, and particularly since this project has been going on. So I think extremely positive from my perspective.
Thank you, Jack. And then finally, Sophie, so you're now just finishing, well, you've just finished your Digital Champion Apprenticeship. So what advice would you give to trainee teachers at SCITT next year if they want to become a champion in the future?
I think one thing for me is to sort of always be open-minded about the opportunities that there are available. It doesn't matter if you're not the computing lead of your school or the digital lead at your school. There's always something on the course that you can learn and take back to other people's at your school as well, and you'll always benefit from the content of the apprenticeship, and then from that as well, don't be afraid to go into your schools and sort of challenge SLT and challenge your tech teams if they're doing something that you don't agree with. You can always, as long as you've got the knowledge there, then you can speak up. And I know that you appreciate, like, if I've learned something or seen it somewhere else, then it's not you being difficult, it's sort of doing things so that we've got the right things in place for our children.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone.